Welcome to EchoCast, and welcome Angela Fair and Kelly Scherger, both nursing professional development practitioners at Tower Health, which is an integrated healthcare provider based in the great state of Pennsylvania, go Phillies, that offers leading-edge healthcare and wellness services to over 2.5 million people across 6 hospitals, 27 urgent care facilities, get this, and a network of over 200 clinics that provide end-to-end care, along with wellness programs and public health services that try to keep people out of those places in the first place. Both Angela and Kelly are extremely credentialed healthcare professionals with a slew of degrees and certifications that we'd be here all day if I went through all those. So I'll just keep moving on. And they've both been at Tower Health for between 15 and 30 years, respectively, so you can guess who's been there longer, training the more than 14,000 team members that they work with at Tower Health across all of those locations I mentioned. And they've been working with Echo 360 now for the last several years to make that training as interactive and as engaging as possible. They're both innovators in this space, as we're going to hear in a couple of seconds. They're great partners of Echo 360. And so really pleased to have both Angela and Kelly on EchoCast. Welcome, guys.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, welcome. Thank you.
I don't know.
Well, thanks so much for sharing your work here on EchoCast. But hey, before we get into it and all the great stuff that you're doing at Tower Health, I'd love to have both of you share just a little bit about your own sort of paths in healthcare. I mean, you both got started, kind of on the nursing kind of side of things, and then now you found yourself into this really cool space of training and using technology and all this kind of stuff. So let's just hear a little bit of this is your life. This is your life portion of EchoCast here. Angela, why don't you go first? Tell us about your path, and then Kelly, you can jump in next.
Okay, I've been a nurse here at Reading for 30 years, a nurse for 36 years total. I lay my groundwork in ICU and acute hemodialysis. I left that workspace to then join the nursing professional development department, and I teach the advanced cardiac life support, pediatric advanced life support, and their trauma course. I'm also very interested in our onboarding process and how to make it better. Specifically, when COVID hit and we were charged to do a totally online virtual orientation to onboard people outside of the hospital and bring them in. And that's what brought all of our hospitals together collectively to say, okay, we all got to be rowing in the right direction. And hence I befriended Kelly as my colleague from Pottstown, and boy, she's my go-to for a lot of things. She's a good egg.
Yeah,
that's my story.
Great, Kelly. How about you? How did you find yourself in this specific kind of line of work?
Well, it's funny, but I was also in ICU. That is my background, and as it came about that people were you had to get your bachelor's, and then I went on and got my master's, and then I found myself in professional development and got certified in that. And it's a really, it's a lovely field to be in, because you get to see so many people grow and learn things. One of the things, Ange definitely roped me in to help with all of the new orientation process, which honestly has been absolutely fabulous. We did work very well together. It was great to come up with our scenarios that we could put into Dojo, which was fabulous. And it's been a true pleasure to work with Ange.
Yeah. Definitely. Well, and we're gonna dig into the technology here in a second, but I'm just, I think for both of you, coming from, kind of the front lines of the work, and now being in positions where you're now training and getting people, talk a little bit about either how easy or how challenging it was sort of moving to the other kind of side of the table. Did coming from sort of the front lines and being the recipient of training, being, on the other end where somebody's, teaching you how to do stuff. did that help as you made the transition, or have there been moments where you're just like, oh my gosh, like I'm trying to like, kind of learn, develop all these new muscles, all this kind of stuff, or has it been helpful to kind of just have that sort of almost empathy from the other side?
I myself personally grappled with leaving the bedside because I was a clinical expert in my area and I could see directly the provision of care to my patients and what effect that had. Whereas when I came into professional development, now I no longer had a patient. The patient was a little longer down the way. My target audience then was, my future colleagues and people who are now taking care of the patient. And the way that I affected patient outcomes was to put out a good product. And most times I was old school, reading and writing and all that kind of stuff. So the technology part was a little challenging for me. Insurmountable? No, not by any measure. But it was something like, oh, geez, another thing that we're going to learn. But it was so well worth it because of the outcomes that we've been noticing in just this short amount of time that we've been using it for our orientation.
Yeah. Kelly, did you have a similar experience yourself?
I definitely have. It was hard to leave the bedside. I do think that it's made me more passionate, making sure that new nurses are ready for the bedside. And I can have that empathy for them and what they're going through as they're transitioning from school to being a bedside nurse. But it's definitely very, very challenging. The computer end of it is all new for me. Matter of fact, I can make an Excel spreadsheet now, and I don't think anybody can believe it.
Oh, that's so funny. Well, Angela, talk a little bit, you mentioned, with the technology was another, kind of factor, obviously, that has now not only weighed in on the work that both you and Kelly are doing, but now it's a pretty central part. Why don't you, let's go back now. Let's take us back, kind of the origin story of how you then got introduced to Echo 360 in the first place, and what you're specifically using Dojo 360 for in your training there at Tower Health.
It was June of 2021, and we were looking to. I loved the turning point, the clickers. Yeah. They were using them in the schools, and I was like, okay, I need to bring that to my classroom, because I didn't want people, I wanted them to be engaged, pay enough attention so that they can answer questions and not be, not have it stick out that, oh, no, you answered wrong. And it would bring on a whole lot of dialogue when we would discuss the questions and why some choices were better. But I was limited in the kind of questions that I could ask. And when we were looking to renew our agreement for the clickers, I was introduced to Dojo 360. It was more along the lines of, hey, have you heard about Dojo 360? And I'm like, no. And my colleague at that point, who had just taken everything and put it into the virtual format, she says, no, show us. And when they showed it to us, we were like a kid in a candy shop. It's like, oh, you can make a hotspot. Oh my gosh, you can have multiple, you can write in answers. Oh my God, this is so cool. And immediately we came together in the office and said, oh my gosh, this would be so awesome to have, because, what kind of dialogue and what kind of discussion this is going to promote. And we were really excited about it. And then it went down several ways, down a few months down the way, and we kind of had this, yeah, we're starting, no, we're not starting. Yeah, we're using it, no, we're not really using it. We don't really So then we got Kristen Gabriel came on board, and she was like, I think that it was her mission in life to say, okay, I am here for you guys. I will do what I need to do. I'm coming to visit you at your elbow and show you how to do this. She really bent over backwards to make us comfortable using it. And even when she visited, I mean, like some of my colleagues are like, just, I call them the naysayers, because they were kind of like, no, why are we doing this? What was wrong with the PowerPoint? And I'm like, you don't get it. This has got so many things that are going to open up discussion and good stuff going on in the classroom where they're not just falling asleep. And that was the key thing. You can give information, but if they're sleeping through it, or they're just like, okay, this is same old, you don't capture them. And I always said, like, to be an educator, you have to have a little bit of a gig, and you have to have something that's going to sell this. And so they want to be involved. They want to be included in the discussions and things like that. But they don't necessarily, especially in terms of like orientation, they don't want to stick their head out and say, like, okay, I'm definitely sure of this answer, but I'm going to give you my answer. And if it's right, great, I'm going to pat myself on the back. But if not, I'm going to know why maybe somebody else's answer was better.
Yeah.
And so it offered us the opportunity to ask a variety of different questions, attach little snippets of video and that kind of thing. And a lot of media that we weren't able to use in just plain old PowerPoint. And it was awesome. And then pictures that we didn't have to pay for and stuff like this. And once we got going with it, it was like, oh my gosh, I can do this. And we're sharing decks and we're doing this. And it was like, it was everything that it was promised to be. We just hadn't figured it out at that early time. Yeah. And so now, and Kelly might elaborate on the kind of feedback that we're getting from the people who are going through our onboarding and orientation about what we're using this for. And we're using it for other things that are going to open up, as we're, like, as you said, we're hospitals and we're located, miles away from each other, miles and miles away. So this opens up opportunity for us to give education on any tour, all right, day, evening, night, weekends, holidays. And it also opens up the opportunities for us to open it up for everyone, not just Reading Hospital, not Pottstown Hospital, but all of Tower Health collectively.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, Kelly, I'd love you to, talk about the kind of the learner kind of feedback. And did you feel like it was pretty? We're going to come back to the naysayers in a second there, Angela, from more maybe your colleague side, but from a learner standpoint, Kelly, was it an immediate kind of receptivity and really engagement with the technology, or did you feel, was there a point at which it just clicked for everybody, and all of a sudden now you've got everybody animated and just dialed up to learn? What was that learner experience like at Tower Health?
So I honestly think we kept talking up and telling everybody, and our CNO especially kept saying, you're the last one that has to do virtual. You're the last one that has to do virtual. And we finally got to the point that we were using the dojo, and they're all very engaged. It is amazing, because when someone was on the other end of the screen and we were just lecturing at them, it was almost like we were talking just at them. They have really enjoyed it. I have not had one complaint. We had some concerns when we first did it, like, what if they can't find this in our computer, because we set it up with really funny scenarios, I think. And so that they were engaged just by the scenario itself. Yeah. But then they would have to go and see where they could find the information to be able to answer questions. And so it went from an 8-hour lecture day to 10-minute blurbs of being lectured at, and they really enjoy it.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So with the naysayers, and Angela, you bring them up, and there's always, with any kind of, being in the technology industry, there's always going to be the early adopters and then the initial resistors. How have you seen from your colleagues, how has that, kind of, have people gotten pretty comfortable now with the technology, and has this now sort of become sort of mainstreamed into the work that Tower Health is doing in the training end of things?
I have, like, right after this podcast, I have one of my colleagues coming to put her lead class into Dojo. And she's got everything all made up. And it's a matter of, if I show you how and I give you the information that you need, then, I've taught you to fish instead of just giving you something to eat.
Sure.
And so that's my plan after this. But yes, the naysayers, I mean, basically, it was, it took a little bit of time, but those are generally those folks who have this just like aversion to like learning new things. The one is an absolute classroom. Here's your papers, here's your handouts. We're not going to do too much up on the, on the board or anything like this, but we're going to look at our handouts and so it's I've done things for her that have upped her game a little bit and made things better. A pretest. It was a pretest for EKG, and she's able to look and she can see who's scoring where, who's missing things, and there's a lot of great information. Not only when you go through it as a class that way, but when you look at it later and say, okay, is this an area that I didn't cover well enough? Maybe I got to go back and look at this. But the naysayers, we pretty much said, like, okay, get on the bus, and I will help you. I will do what you need to do. And Kelly was the same way. It's like, if we need to travel to your hospital and do this at the arm with you, if we can do it, anybody can do it. And the naysayers, literally the one who was like one of the biggest ones, gave poor Kristen a run for her money. But she's the one who's running our orientation and has done all of the assigning, all of the, everything, and presents it now since was it October 10th that was our first go live. And every other week we do orientation, and she is taken to it like a duck to water. And it is, she rarely comes to me for any help or anything like that. And we look forward to when we all get together and say, what's working and what's not and everything. But Dojo, I don't think is anything that we have to be concerned about not working. It's doing what we wanted it to do, and that's keep our people engaged.
Yeah. Well, and Kelly, you mentioned now that you've mastered Excel spreadsheets, you're perfectly equipped to answer this technical question. But in passing, Angela just said that one of the things that you're able to do using technologies like a Dojo 360 is to be able to go back, review information if lost. And so, when I think of the type of training that you and Angela are doing, I mean, this is high stakes training. This isn't like, you're teaching kids how to scoop ice cream, at a Ben and Jerry's. And so, like, how do you see the technology, either helping or is leaning on technology in any way? Is that contributing to any sort of not cynicism, but just concern that people are going to be trained up to the level they need to be trained up, because you literally have lives in people's hands, or is the technology like being able to go back and make sure and track performance and whether it's through word clouds or questions, has that been helpful to really know if your staff is learning what they're supposed to be learning before they get out there with patient care?
I honestly think that it does, because we can see where people may be struggling. That helps because we can hone in on that on the floors. But one of the big things is in healthcare, it's not about what you know, but how are you going to find the answer if you don't know? And I better find it quick. And Dojo is allowing us to teach them how to go back and find the answers that they're going to need, because we can ask questions and have them refer to our policy manager, have them refer to Lippincott, so that they get those skills and know where their resources are. And I think that is fabulous. Plus they're engaged, so they're not just being talked at.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. So this is a little bit of a jump ball for either of you, whoever would like to kind of answer it. But like when you think ahead, to what is the next sort of chapter of training, kind of innovation there at Tower Health, what's next? It seems like you've taken this great leap forward, and people are engaged, and Angela's, we're keeping her on the line here. She's going to go get somebody else trained up here in a second. But what do you see as the next evolution of training innovation there at Tower Health?
I can tell you that, like I said, after this webcast is I'm lead where we teach novices how to become facilitators, how to be leaders on the clinical floor, so that they have the right tools to use. And it's several weeks, and that's going to go in. And the basic trauma course that is a recommendation from the Pennsylvania Trauma Systems Foundation is also going to go in there and will be made available. So like I said, we have a large amount of people that work on trauma designated units. We're a level 1 trauma center, and that is their basic start, and to get those people through without having to flip-flop schedules and things like that, because anywhere and everywhere staffing is a challenge. So in order to keep these people from flip-flopping and be able to do this education on the shift that they are hired for, childcare is no longer an issue. Flip-flopping and them losing sleep and having to drive and all that kind of thing, no longer an issue. And it's very much going to be a satisfier for us to be able to train people on their respective shifts at their own pace when they need it.
Yeah,
that's going to be a huge boom.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. All right. Well, Kelly, since Angela took that on, I didn't let you know that there was going to be a follow-up question. So Kelly, you're going to take us home now. So we on every EchoCast, we ask our guests our last question, and it's called the inspiration point. And basically, it's a question that's around one either piece of advice or one bit of learning, one sort of key lesson or the key takeaway based on your own experience here that we've heard so much about here over the last few minutes here. So Kelly, if you were to impart one piece of advice or one big thing that you've learned that you'd want to share with somebody who's maybe in a similar position as you, looking to, kind of infuse their programs with some technology, some kind of that next level of engagement, what would be the one thing that you've learned here now at Tower Health that you'd want to share with somebody else?
Well, I definitely think that if you want your people to be engaged, this is the way to go. As far as using Dojo itself, one of the biggest things that helps is to understand the definitions of decks versus assignments versus classes. That's huge, because if you don't know that, you confuse yourself and just get very frustrated. And I'm sorry, my phone's ringing.
That's all right. You can get that. That might be. It could be an important call there, Kelly.
But it's I would say jump in with both feet and go for it, because it's been well worth it. That's
fantastic. Well, I want to thank both Kelly, you and Angela, for joining us here on EchoCast and for sharing your perspectives, the great examples that you're putting into place, and just the commitments that you both have to making sure that people, I love how you talk about the bedside to now this side, and the care and the concern are evident no matter what side that you're on. So we're going to let Angela and Kelly go, but everybody else, stick around for a quick demonstration of some of the applications that were referenced here in this EchoCast. And you can always go to echo360.com for more episodes of EchoCast and resources to create your own inspired learning experiences.
Here's a quick demonstration of an Echo360 solution related to this episode of EchoCast. Reach out to us at echo360.com to learn more.
Hello, my name's Kristen, and I'm from Echo360. Today we're going to show how easy it is to create a course in our product Dojo 360. This is our Dojo 360 instructor view. To create a course, all you need to do is navigate to the top right corner, click Create, select Course, and then name your course. You can name it whatever you want to. For example, Introduction to Nursing. And then once you've named your course, click Create. From here, you can create all of the details that go into your course by clicking Edit. We can change or edit our course name here. We could also provide a description. Since our course is Introduction to Nursing, we can just add the description here. In this course, you will learn about nursing. You could also add other instructors who you would like to be added to the course to also teach the course by going ahead and finding anyone in your organization, other instructors who would be able to facilitate the same course. I'll add Michael, and now I can click Save. The next best part is my favorite, and this is where we can add a cover image for our course. Now keep in mind, all of your learners will see the course name, the description, and any instructors, as well as this cover image when they log into their learner dashboard and access the course themselves. So to create a cover image, click Add Cover Image. And here you have options to drag and drop or browse your own files. Choose content from your own library, which is like a mini Google Drive. You also can look at our over 1 million royalty-free stock images. So I will put nursing in the search bar, and we will see some different images we could choose. Maybe choose hospital. And we could choose an image like this. This will then be our cover image for the course. All right, so now we have our course information, our cover image. All we need to do now is go back, and here is our course. The next step would be to open that course, add your roster, and create some classes and assignments for your students. I hope you enjoy.
Thanks for tuning in to EchoCast. For more information on these and other inspired learning solutions, visit us at echo360.com.